4,000 sailors call this aircraft carrier home for days, weeks, and months at a time when deployed.
I work in the hangar bay, and we move aircraft, starting up from the flight deck.
In 2018, a sailor on the USS George H.W. Bush was struck by a spinning propeller in the hangar bay.
Sailor assigned to the USS George H.W. Bush was killed yesterday.
He didn't survive. That same week, the hangar deck kept running, because it always keeps running. This is the hidden engine of every aircraft carrier, a place most Americans have never seen, and most sailors never forget. Today, you're going inside it. This is what life inside an aircraft carrier hangar in the middle of the sea is really like. Subscribe if you're new, and let's get into it. The hangar bay, the carrier's engine room. Everyone talks about the flight deck, the catapults firing, the jets screaming off the bow, the tail hooks catching the wire. That's what makes the highlight reels. But the real heart of an aircraft carrier sits 2 decks below all of that, hidden from the cameras, hidden from the public running around the clock, whether the sun is up or not. It's called the hangar bay, and it never, ever stops. Picture this. You're standing at one end of a steel room that stretches 685 feet long, 110 feet wide, and 25 feet high. That's more than 2/3 of the entire length of the ship. Now pack that room with over 60 aircraft, FA-18 Super Hornets, E-2 Hawkeyes, MH-60 Seahawk helicopters, the occasional C-2 Greyhound cargo plane, all crammed in wingtip to wingtip. Add spare jet engines stacked along the walls, fuel tanks, hydraulic jacks, tool carts, missiles, and crates, and hundreds of sailors moving through it all like they own the place. Because they do. This isn't a storage room. It's a garage, a repair shop, a weapons depot, and a fueling station, all rolled into one. And the whole thing sits on a hull that is constantly moving, constantly rolling with the ocean beneath it. When the USS Abraham Lincoln hit heavy swells off the coast of Japan in 2017, the hangar deck was pitching hard enough that unsecured equipment was sliding. Sailors were bracing themselves against aircraft to stay upright, and the work didn't stop. It never stops. The hangar is split into 4 separate zones, each one divided by massive sliding steel doors. Those doors exist for one reason: fire. On a ship carrying jet fuel, hydraulic fluid, explosives, and 2 nuclear reactors, a fire is not an emergency. It's a catastrophe. If flames break out in one zone, those doors slam shut and contain it. Every system on the ship, every drill, every procedure is designed around that single terrifying possibility. The hangar rats, masters of the deck. Now let's talk about the people who run this place. They're called hangar rats, and they've earned that nickname the hard way. Officially, they're aviation boatswain's mates, ABHs in Navy shorthand. But on every carrier in the fleet, everyone knows them by the nickname. These are the sailors who spend more time in the hangar than anywhere else on the ship. It is their world, their turf, and they run it with a precision that would genuinely impress you. Hangar rats wear yellow jerseys. Yellow means aircraft director. Their entire job is to move multi-million-dollar fighter jets around a space where there is absolutely no room for error. And they do it with no radios, no digital guidance systems, nothing but 2 glowing yellow wands and a set of hand signals. Think about what that actually means. You've got a 30-ton aircraft with its engine running, its brakes barely holding, on a deck that is rolling with ocean swells beneath your feet. The sailor in the yellow jersey is standing close enough to that jet to feel the exhaust, watching the pilot through the cockpit glass, signaling left, right, forward, hold. One miscommunication, one hesitation, one wrong read of the signal, and a wingtip clips another aircraft worth $60 million, or worse, someone gets crushed. In 2017, a chief petty officer aboard the USS Ronald Reagan was directing an FA-18 Super Hornet in the hangar when the aircraft rolled over his legs. He lost a limb permanently. These are not freak accidents. They are reminders of what this environment actually demands from the people in it. Hangar rats also handle crash recovery, emergency firefighting, and first response if something goes wrong on the deck. They train for worst-case scenarios constantly, running through simulated fires, engine failures, aircraft crashes, until the responses are pure muscle memory. And they do all of it in shifts that run 12 to 14 hours, sometimes longer, during high operations tempo, breathing jet exhaust in 90-degree heat with humidity that makes the air feel like a wet blanket. Quick question for you. Could you guide a 30-ton jet through a crowded steel room by hand for 14 hours straight on a ship in the middle of the ocean? Drop your answer in the comments. The color code, a rainbow of controlled chaos. Walk through the hangar on a busy day, and the first thing you notice is the jerseys. Everyone is wearing a different color, and every color means something specific. Yellow is for aircraft directors, the hangar rats calling the movements. Blue jerseys are the handlers, the sailors physically pushing and chocking the aircraft. Red is ordnance, the men and women handling the bombs, missiles, and ammunition. Purple is fuel, the sailors keeping the tanks topped off. Green is maintenance, the technicians keeping everything airworthy. It looks like chaos from the outside. It is anything but. Every color is a role. Every role is a responsibility. And in an environment where one mistake can cascade into disaster, that system is what keeps everything from falling apart. The cyclic rhythm, how a day actually flows. Life in the hangar doesn't run on a normal clock. It runs on something called cyclic operations, and once you understand it, everything else about carrier life starts to make sense. Here's how it works. Aircraft don't launch one at a time. They launch in groups called events. Each event sends 12 to 20 aircraft off the flight deck at once. The whole cycle from launch to recovery and back to launch again runs about 90 minutes. Then it repeats all day, all night, non-stop. About 45 minutes before an event launches, the hangar comes alive. Plane captains do their walkarounds, inspecting every inch of their aircraft. Mechanics make last-minute fixes. Ordnance men in red jerseys are loading missiles and bombs onto hardpoints using specialized dollies, a two-man job minimum. Fuelers are topping off tanks. Everything has to be perfect, because in 45 minutes, these aircraft are going to be launched off a ship at 170 miles per hour. Then the elevators start moving. These are not elevators like you've ever ridden. They are massive hydraulic platforms built into the side of the ship, constructed from high-speed aluminum, capable of lifting 2 fully loaded fighter jets simultaneously, each one weighing up to 74,000 pounds. There are 4 of them positioned around the hangar, and during an active event cycle, they are running constantly, moving aircraft up to the flight deck one after another. When the event launches, the hangar empties fast, the deck clears, and for about 20 minutes, there is something rare on a carrier. A pause. The hangar rats catch their breath. Maintenance crews swarm the aircraft that stayed below. Mechanics pull panels, check systems, swap parts. This is their window, and they know exactly how long it lasts. Because in about an hour, those planes are coming back. Recovering aircraft is a completely different kind of pressure. The jets come back hot. Engines still running. Landing gear stressed from slamming onto the flight deck at 150 miles per hour and catching a steel cable with a tailhook. The aircraft are low on fuel and need immediate attention. As soon as a plane comes down on the elevator, the tow tractors move in. A tow bar connects to the nose gear strut, and the aircraft is pulled to its slot. Then the pit crew mentality kicks in. Refuel, rearm, inspect, fix, and do it fast. Because in 45 minutes, that same jet might be going back up. The turnaround time is genuinely hard to believe. And it's all happening in a room packed with 60 other aircraft, hundreds of sailors, and a constant background roar of noise that you can feel in your chest. This cycle repeats through the entire 24-hour period. Event 1, Event 2, Event 3, all the way through. The hangar never fully shuts down. Even during quieter periods, there is always maintenance, always prep work, always something moving. The AIMD shops, where the real wrenching happens. Behind the main hangar bay, deeper in the belly of the ship, is a world most people never hear about. It's called the Aircraft Intermediate Maintenance Division, the AIMD, and it is where the technical heavy lifting gets done. The AIMD is a collection of specialized shops, each one dedicated to a specific system: avionics, hydraulics, electrical systems, engines. If it's on an aircraft and it can break, there is a shop for it down here. The technicians who staff these spaces are not general mechanics. They are specialists trained specifically on the systems they work on, running tests, and making repairs that keep the air wing flyable. Here's the thing people don't realize about carrier aviation. Fighter jets don't just break down in combat, they break down from the sheer violence of normal carrier operations. Every arrested landing slams the aircraft onto the deck at 150 miles per hour. The tailhook yanks the jet to a stop in about 300 feet. That kind of stress fractures landing gear, cracks hydraulic lines, rattles electronics loose. It is a relentless mechanical beating, repeated multiple times a day, every single day of deployment. The AIMD shops deal with the consequences of that around the clock. Every tool has a designated spot. Every part is logged and tracked. The spaces are cramped and squeezed into whatever corners the ship can spare because space on a carrier is never wasted, but they are organized with a precision that makes a hospital operating room look casual. At the very stern of the ship, behind all of that, is an open-air platform called the fantail. This is the only location on the entire carrier where a jet engine can be run at full power safely. When an engine comes out of an aircraft for maintenance, the entire unit is stripped down, inspected, repaired, and then taken to the fantail for testing. Standing behind an FA-18 engine running at full power on that deck, the noise is beyond loud. The heat coming off the exhaust is intense enough to feel from 30 feet away, but it has to happen. If that engine has a problem, the crew needs to know before it goes back in an aircraft. Once the engine passes its ratings, the squadrons are notified and it goes back into service. The pilots get the recognition. The AIMD teams keep them alive. Life below deck, where these sailors actually live. Now, let's talk about what happens when the shift ends and these sailors go back to where they sleep. Because they don't go home. For 6 to 9 months at a stretch, the ship is home. The sleeping quarters are called berthing compartments. Enlisted sailors share these spaces with anywhere from 40 to 180 others, depending on the class of ship. Racks are stacked 3 high. The mattress is a 3-inch foam pad. From the top of your mattress to the bottom of the rack above you, there is 20 inches of clearance. Not 20 feet, 20 inches. Just enough to roll over if you're careful. Many of these compartments are located deep inside the hull with no windows and no natural light. Sailors on long deployments can go weeks without seeing sunlight. They wake up under artificial light, work under artificial light, and go to sleep under it. Add in the constant noise, jet engines launching and landing a few decks overhead, the ship's own engines humming continuously, doors clanging in passageways, and sleep becomes something you have to fight for. Meals are served in mess halls that run around the clock. On a ship the size of the USS Gerald R. Ford, the culinary team serves up to 17,300 meals every single day. The daily food haul includes 1,600 pounds of chicken and 20,000 cups of coffee, just to give you a sense of the scale. Every 7 to 10 days, a supply ship pulls alongside the carrier while both vessels are moving, matches speed, and transfers up to 700,000 pounds of food via cable systems stretched between the hulls. That operation, called underway replenishment, is one of the most logistically complex things the Navy does routinely. For sailors working the night shift, there are midnight rations, mid-rats, served at 12 a.m. The soft-serve ice cream machine is famously the most beloved piece of equipment on any carrier, and anyone who has deployed will tell you that without irony. Free time is rare. A small gym, some television, video calls home when the satellite connection cooperates. Morale is maintained through tradition as much as anything else. The line crossing ceremony, when a ship crosses the equator for the first time, is a full shipboard event. Costumes, rituals, the works. Swim calls, when the ship stops and sailors are allowed to jump into the open ocean, are a genuine morale event. The hangar bay itself gets converted into a massive dining hall for Thanksgiving, complete with football on screens and food that actually feels like home. The carrier has its own barbershop, post office, medical clinic, dental clinic, general store, and bank. Everything a person needs for half a year at sea, packed into a steel hull that never stops moving. Why any of this matters? So why does all of this exist? Why put 5,000 people through this? Because a carrier strike group doesn't just project power, it is power. A single group controls thousands of square miles of ocean and airspace simultaneously. It can launch airstrikes, run search and rescue operations, deliver disaster relief, and show up anywhere on the planet within days. When diplomacy needs a backup plan, a carrier on the horizon is that plan. Right now, as you're reading this title and deciding whether to click, there are 11 U.S. carriers deployed across the world. In the Pacific, in the Mediterranean, in the Persian Gulf. On every single one of them, there is a hangar bay, exactly like the one described here. And on every one of those hangar decks, sailors in yellow and blue and red and green jerseys are working through the night, moving jets, loading weapons, fixing what's broken. keeping the air wing ready. They don't do it for recognition. Most people watching this video will never know a single one of their names. They do it because the mission matters, because their shipmates depend on them, and because someone has to do the hardest job in the most unforgiving environment on Earth. The next time you see footage of an FA-18 screaming off a carrier deck, remember what's happening 2 decks below that moment. Remember the hangar rats guiding those jets with nothing but hand signals? Remember the AIMD technicians who worked through the night to make sure that engine wouldn't fail? Remember the 19-year-old sailor standing in 90-degree heat on a pitching steel deck in the middle of the ocean, doing his job with everything he has. That's what this place really looks like. That's what life in the hangar bay is really like. If this gave you a new appreciation for what these sailors go through every single day, hit the like button and subscribe. These are the stories worth telling, and we'll keep bringing them to you.